So let's call the meeting to order. We have the roll call.
Cecilia Green.
Here.
Donna Weir. Robert Perry.
Here.
Nan Matha.
Yeah.
Jim Russell.
Yeah.
Jeff Petro.
Here.
Tracy Smadilla.
Here.
Mike Sobel.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, first item is approval of the March 10, 2014 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any questions or comments on these minutes? If not, can I hear a motion to approve?
I move to approve the March 10th minutes as provided.
Okay, is there a second?
Yeah.
And Jim Russell seconds. So, do you do a roll call for the vote, or
You could say all in
all
favor.
in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? None? Carried. Tony has an update on the Downtown TIF recommendations.
Yes, thank you, Cecilia. Hearkening back again to our 5 months of deliberation and testimony last year regarding recommendations to improve and stimulate the downtown business area. If you recall, there were 11 medium-term actions, and medium-term actions were defined as those with a 6 to 24-month time frame. And one of the key recommendations within that list was to pursue the creation of a new downtown tax increment financing district as a mechanism to create a future funding source for marketing, financial support of events, and potential incentives for future businesses, and I really should say for future redevelopment as well. As staff has previously reported, the creation of a new TIF district requires documentation by an objective third-party analyst consultant to determine that a specific area meets the statutory requirements to qualify as a TIF district. You probably remember me telling you that there's a list of criteria determined really on a state-by-state basis, but they're very similar. And you would hire an independent outside consultant to study an area to determine whether or not the area meets the criteria to qualify as a TIF district before a village board adopts ordinances to create one. So, and the cost of such a study ranges from a low of around $20,000 up to around $30,000, and it depends on the size and the scope of the designated redevelopment area. I've spoken to a few TIF consulting firms, and they've all stated that. They do a parcel-by-parcel analysis, so obviously the bigger the study area, the more comprehensive the study would be, more costly, quite frankly. So at the April 1st meeting, the Village Board Committee considered staff's presentation on tax increment financing, and we also submitted quite a few supporting materials, including 2 fact sheets about TIF districts, a downtown TIF closeout report that was dated April 19th, 2011, and that was a summary of the TIF district that existed in downtown Bartlett from 1986 through 2010. Also a spreadsheet detailing the village's TIF facade rebate program, and also the redevelopment plan that was associated with the previous district. Again, it was dated back in fall of 1986. So following that discussion, the Village Board Committee directed staff to proceed with the hiring of a TIF consulting firm to determine the proper size and scope of a new TIF district. This process can range from anywhere from 4 to 6 months, and it also includes public hearings and convening something that they call a joint review board, which is a board comprised of representatives from each of the local taxing districts that would be affected by the TIF district. So staff will keep the EDC apprised of this progress made towards the creation of a new downtown TIF district. It's my understanding the study at some point would be presented to the EDC for your review and commentary on it. And meantime, if you have any questions about the TIF, specifically the TIF that we're seeking to create in the downtown or just TIFs in general, you can direct those questions to me or to Jim. We'll find out the answers. We do have some active TIF districts already in the village that both of us have worked on for many years. So we're quite familiar with the mechanisms and what they can be used for, what they can't be used for, some of the pros and potential cons of them as well. So that's the latest and greatest in the status of the TIF district, is we're going to be speaking with some consulting firms to get their take on it, since the village hasn't created one for a number of years, to get the current pricing and also meet with somebody who's cognizant of all the new laws regulating them. TIF law changes constantly. The basics are the same. The qualifying criteria and what you can use TIF for is basically the same, but there's tweaks of the law, on a continuing basis. That being said, are there any questions right now about the downtown TIF or TIFs in general?
I just have a couple of questions about the existing TIFs, Tony.
Yeah.
Those that I'm aware of would be Brewster Creek, correct?
Right, that's one of
And
them.
the Route 59, Route 20 corridor. How long have those been active TIFs, and is there a maturity date to those?
Yes. There's actually 3 TIFs, active TIFs in the village, and I'm going to have to stop and think for a little while, because Brewster Creek is the very successful one that has brought in quite a bit of development and continues to do so. That one, I believe, was adopted in 1999. I was going to say 99 or 2000. TIFs typically run for 23 years. So TIFs, some TIF districts have been extended beyond 23 years. That has to go to a state vote. They can be extended up to 35 years, and that's actually happens, quite a few times. And on the flip side, a smaller number of TIFs have been collapsed or disbanded or ended prior to 23 years. In cases where the communities feel like they've accomplished what they needed to accomplish with the TIF, there have been a few that have been closed early. So that one runs for 23 years until 2022, which sounded like forever 10 years ago, but now think about it, it goes for about 8 more years. The Route 59 and Lake Street TIF was adopted, I believe, in 2004. So that also runs for 23 years to 2027. There has been no development there. As a matter of fact, that TIF district runs a negative balance. So funds are often shifted to cover that, because the equalized assessed value of those particular properties have actually dropped even since 2004. With all the appreciation in real estate values the last 10 years, the real estate values there have declined. And then last but not least, there's what I call the Bluff City TIF, Blue Heron Business Park as well. That's at Route 25 and West Bartlett Road. That was adopted in 2009 or 2008? Okay, so 2008, Jim's reporting. And so that runs for 23 years. So that's the newest one. And that one is on the cusp of development. Most of the infrastructure has been put in at this point. There's new roads, there's grading, there's infrastructure. There should be some development out there within the next few years. So those are the three.
So with the downtown TIF district that's proposed, I'm assuming that there had already been a TIF district in the downtown area.
There had been
Or it had been
previously,
established
right.
as TIF district. How, did that run for the full 23 years?
Yes. What happened was TIFs are supposed to run for 23 years, but because Cook County has a somewhat unique way of property tax billing, it's usually later than other counties. You're paying for the prior year's taxes. Other counties do that as well, but the Cook County tax bills for many years went out very late. So in order to capture the 23rd and final year of increment, actually the EDC back in 2009 held 4 or 5 months in a row of fairly well-attended hearings on the TIF and the benefits for extending it. The long story short is ultimately the village board voted to, they call it extending it one more year, but in actuality what it was capturing the 23rd year of increment. So yes, that's the long explanation. So it ran from 1986. The increment probably started getting generated in about 1988 or so. It takes a few years to generate increment. And they extended it, instead of ending it December 31st of 09, the EDC recommended to extend it 1 year, so they extended it through the end of 2010. The Economic Development Commission, at this point, Cecilia was the only one who was on the commission at that point, would review TIF rebate requests nearly on a monthly basis. And in 2010, I don't have the exact number ahead of me, but almost 20% of the rebates for the whole program came in through that last year. We had 5 of them in the November meeting and 5 more in the December meeting, so,
Can I ask,
yeah,
that particular TIF, the former downtown one,
yeah.
what were the objectives, what were the hits, and what were the misses? Obviously, we have this thing across the street.
Right.
And we have Railroad Avenue, or whatever you call it, going through. Those are obvious. What else was there?
Right, I don't have Jim's going to field this one.
Actually, the downtown TIF district that was created in '86 was very successful and fulfilled and far exceeded all of the original redevelopment plan proposals that were in the original TIF. The first thing was to redevelop and expand Gorski Bartlett Plaza, which they did, and paid for infrastructure and wrote down the loan interest on a construction loan for the big addition in what you now see is like Pasta Mia going all the way back to that doctor's office. That was all built, and the road going in there off of Main Street was all built with the TIF incentive. Then all of the streetscape improvements that you see in the downtown and the road downtown, when the TIF was first created, there was no, and you probably remember this, there was no sidewalks. It was all a shoulder, and just parking up and down Main Street. And so they redid the whole road, put in the storm sewers, the curb and gutter, the traffic signals, and then on the either side of the road, the sidewalks were replaced. When there was sidewalks, but they put in the brick pavers, the landscaping, the period street lights, all up and down the whole downtown area. That project took several years. It wasn't done all at once. It was done in phases. And then the facade program carried out throughout the whole time. So that facade program started in the beginning and continued. So you'd have anybody who was in a business that wanted to do code-related and facade improvements got the rebate. Originally, it was limited at $15,000, and it was a 30% rebate.
It was always 30.
Always 30% rebate, but through the EDC's efforts and the board approving it, we increased the amount of the facade ceiling. So like, it was at 15 and it went to 30, and at the end it was pretty high. I think it was 100,000 was the maximum amount that you could get a rebate for. So you get 30,000. So some people took advantage of that. And then the big project, people don't realize it because you see that building there and then all the townhomes and condos behind it, but there was 5 abandoned factory buildings here. And those buildings were not only the land was purchased, but the buildings were torn down, and the site remediation for the environmental contamination of those buildings took place. And what few people realize is that there was one of those buildings had, and I don't know the full scientific name, but it was a degreasing agent that they used to use to clean equipment. And that was leaking out of one of the buildings, and it was heading towards our well here and towards the property where those apartment buildings are. And those people in those apartment buildings were nervous about it because it was leaching underground. So part of our TIF, we also received grants from the State Environmental Protection Agency to clean all that up. So we cleaned it up with the TIF. We did the demolition, but we did the environmental cleanup with TIF funds as well as the grant from the State Environmental Protection Agency. And much to the gladness of the village who had a well here, but also those residents, they all, the owners of those apartment buildings cooperated and allowed us to go on their property, gave us easements to clean it up. It was like a plume of underground contamination. So that was, and then we did the town center redevelopment, and we used the land that we purchased. We wrote as an incentive to the developer, we built the infrastructure and then wrote down the land values as an incentive to the developer to make the site attractive for him to redevelop. And then one of the other projects that was kind of hand in glove with that is that we built Railroad Avenue Extension, and we got a grant for the road to build the road through there, and we worked with Metra to put the new train station in, and that kind of offset the local funding share of that grant. And then we moved the museum. We helped move the museum over and get that fixed up. And then they got a subsequent grant to help rehab that museum. That really wasn't TIF dollars. And then there was assorted little projects throughout TIF. We put in sidewalks with bike racks in the old train station. We did the facade program throughout the whole thing. So there was those types of things. So, and then when it was all said and done, the village still had $2 million left over. The other one we buried the power poles. That was the other thing. We gave $2 million back to all the taxing districts in a prorated, because it's based on whatever their assessed value. So
now that sounds pretty darn good. I mean, anybody that's been around here a long time, if you go look, you can see it. But that was a really nice recap. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Now, to that end, those of us on here, Joan and anybody in the town, you can look at that and say, this is what you got from it. You can look at Brewster and say, this was a big success. Where and how does the planning go into place, and what, if anything, are plans specifically for what's not happening at 59 and 20 and Blue Heron? I mean, I go past there all the time. It's just like you see some grading trucks and it seems to go nowhere. And with our potential new TIF, are there plans in place for those two that exist? Is there a plan for the new potential downtown one other than all the things we developed, or is that to be coming up? I'm just curious.
I'll answer that last one first. There's no redevelopment plan for the downtown TIF. That is what we hire the consultant for, to help us put that together. And that's part of the evaluation will be what needs to be redeveloped. There's a laundry list of stuff. Part of the whole TIF district process and one of the things that you need to hire we not only hire a consultant to do the plan, we hire a financial consultant, and they do a performance of the cash flow. So you project. You sometimes can only do so much. There's only going to be so much money generated. So then part of the plan is you have to determine what fiscally can be done. We can say, yeah, we want to build a 110-story, Sears Tower out here. You physically can't do it with the TIF. It's that kind of thing. So there's lots of redevelopment opportunities. So we have to pick and choose and determine what's a priority, and that'll probably fall on the EDC and ultimately the village board when we do a redevelopment plan. The other ones both have redevelopment plans in place. The Blue Heron Southwind Park is, and I explained this to the village board just at the last meeting because I gave them a similar, the reason I gave that recap is I gave them a similar recap, so I practiced it once, is that the Blue Heron is on the verge of getting new development. There's things happening out there that because the infrastructure was put in, and then we also received a grant to put in a traffic signal at Kenyon Boulevard that's been done. The development pressure out there is starting to be realized because the developer has reclaimed a lot of the land. So we've recently talked to 4 potential developments that could occur out there. And the nice thing about that out there is part of the review and the annexation agreement of that property, they have what is called a pre-approved site plan. So if they bring in a project that matches that pre-approved site plan, the staff looks at it, makes sure that it matches it, and they can go to get a building permit. So that's what he's focusing on. He's trying to find projects. It has to be 5 acres in size. They all have a lot of that. In certain areas, they all have outdoor storage because that's in demand out here. So they have to fit that kind of mold. So these projects, 3 of them look like they'll fit that pre-approved site plan. Now he has to then, the developer has to go in and sell those properties and make those potential businesses get those.
Are those like a fast approve where they don't have to come here and petition?
They don't come to anybody. They just go to building permit. The staff looks at it. The pre-approved site plan is just on a map, and it's got the dimensions of the property, landscaping, parking requirements, building location. If he matches that, he can go right to a building permit.
Nice.
The infrastructure's in out there, so that's you got to obviously tie in to the water, sewer, the road systems there. So 3 of the 4 look like they fit. If the one that doesn't fit will have to go through a site plan review process with the Planning Commission, and the board will have to approve it. And then the other one is not very successful at all. There's a redevelopment plan. Early on, we had probably 3 or 4 different major commercial shopping center developers look at that site, actually buy or purchase a contract on the properties and propose redevelopment plans that involve TIF incentives, but it also involved bringing in certain retailers and developing a shopping center. And, I laughed about it, but they ran anywhere from the Macy's, Kohl's, Walmart. Tony and I sat down with all those. We used to go to shopping center shows, and we sat down with all those retailers and the developers. They were all interested.
Really?
Yeah, we spent over 2 years working with a real strong development team, and the long story short, without listing out all the reasons, is their whole deal imploded in about '09
Right.
through '10.
When
The
development.
retailers, the key retailers, Jim named a few of them, when they decided to pull out of the deal, nobody would build anything speculative there. They all had to try to bring in those big anchor tenants, and so that, looks the same now as it did back then. But yeah, it was close to being developed right when the big recession hit.
So is the property still up for redevelopment? Is the owner still trying to sell it?
Yes. The village actually owns some of the frontage on Lake Street. There's an owner called Town and Country Homes that owns the bulk of the property, 25 acres. And then there's one more property owner that I guess I'm going to say here at the EDC hasn't been the easiest for people to work with. They own about 20 acres. Most of it's wetlands.
Is it,
And we're
just for
holding out
clarification,
for
is that mostly on 59, or is it some on Lake Street too?
both. Yeah, it's at the southwest corner of Lake and 59, so it goes, some of it spans along the Lake Street side, and some of it goes from the corner a little further south
Where all
from
the
Route
forests are.
59. I'm sorry?
Where all the forests and the trees are up by the off-ramp.
Right.
So in the TIF district, there's what, 3 owners?
There's a few other owners. There's somebody who owns there's a house, there's a vacant house on that
On
property.
59?
Yeah, that's a
That's
smaller
vacant,
property.
that's boarded up?
Right. One of the landowners there has been pursuing purchase of that. That they're trying to purchase and demolish it.
Tony and Jim?
Well, I'll just bring this up to the commission. Maybe that's something that the commission would like to maybe try and solve a problem there. If there's nothing going on with the TIF, at a later date, maybe we could take a look at that TIF and see if there's some ideas we can come up with that as a group to help get things along.
It would be a good project, and what I believe needs to be done is it needs to be reevaluated and reconfigured and extended out 23 more years and include some more property.
Well, you
But
said,
that's something that, the board's got to tackle this downtown first. It's a priority thing.
Tony said that that one is actually a loss right now. Is it, I like what Bob's saying, but tell me something. You guys are professionals. Is it more advantageous to try and reconfigure a new idea for that? Of course, it's just an idea. You still would have to have people. Or to save from losing money, would it be a good idea to collapse it?
We've considered both issues as possibilities at this point. The issue is the word in TIF, the middle word is increment, and so the last people who looked at it were concerned that the amount of time to create the increment was shortening every year. I have to look back at my math, but if it's a 2004 to 2027, so it just goes for 13 more years. So the amount of increment somebody could generate there dwindles as time goes by. So it could be something the village looks at reconfiguring, like you said.
It has a lot of development potential. Just needs to be looked at and reconfigured, and I think that, there, a couple of those property owners may propose some residential uses on some of it. Town and Country, for example. They're not Town and Country anymore. I can't remember their name, but they may propose something a little different than retail.
I'm not anti-green space. I mean, the trees are plenty nice to look at, but we're known for basically having one retail district and then sort of one here in downtown. It would just be nice to have more options. Lake Street is dead. It's either 59 and Stearns or pretty much nothing. So something could happen there. But, of course, it takes money. It takes interested parties.
Would you in the village be opposed to having this brought up at a meeting in the future to help solve the problems?
I think right now they need to see how the downtown's going to go. I think they're focusing their efforts on
Of
that.
course. No, I'm talking about maybe 3 or 4 months from now.
I'd say maybe in a year.
A year?
The downtown TIF's going to take a lot of effort. It'll be a while before it's created. I would think maybe next year they could look at that as an alternative to evaluate that and see if there's some other properties that have come online that might be worthwhile including in it, that are in the village, that weren't included in it at the first time because they were already developed. They've since gone out of business. So there's an opportunity out there. There were some properties up there that weren't in the village when the first TIF was created, and now they've been brought in the village. So you want to bring those pieces in too. So those are more along Lake Street and are more they have a little better development potential than the ones on 59. 59 has bad access.
Tony and Jim, you referred to the TIF that the board is going to look at as the downtown TIF.
Yeah.
Is it geographically closed to just the downtown, or I know when we proposed it, we said downtown, but Dominic hadn't happened at that time, and things like that. So are they open to also looking at parcels like that to include in the TIF, or are they just strictly going to look at downtown?
I think downtown.
Yeah. No, at this point, this particular TIF would be focusing on the downtown area rather than all the way out to Route 59. The TIF district has to be contiguous, so it can't be based around the downtown and then skipping over a mile and a half that includes residential areas and going out to that corner. If there were excessive vacancies, eventually at the intersection of Route 59 and Stearns Road, don't really want it to get to that point, but it could, that could be a separate area that's considered someday for that.
Just for clarity, I mean, we all assume we know what's downtown. He has a good question. I mean, obviously you can't go out there, but what is the actual geographical boundaries? Is it, I'm assuming it's North Avenue or maybe Oneida, across the tracks down to Gorski's and roughly to Western, and then the other side of the train station, that's pretty much it?
That's basically it. And those were the boundaries, roughly, of the previous TIF. And they've talked, what we heard some of the trustees say was to possibly look at slightly expanding it beyond that, maybe to include the Flexonics property and perhaps some of the other centers around the downtown area. But we haven't, that's another thing that will come out, so to speak, during the study period. For instance, Devon Prospect Plaza wasn't included in the last TIF district, and Westgate Commons didn't exist at that point. So, of course, that wasn't included either.
Both would be nice, but then that'd be quite a bit of creep, too.
Yeah, we're going to meet with the consultants. We work very closely with them as they study the area to determine what sites would be most appropriate to be included. It depends what some of the goals are for the TIF. I mean, one of them, I'm not going to speculate on all the goals of the TIF, but one of them I'm sure would be to help rehabilitate some of the older properties that don't meet current code standards. I might use Papa Pacino's and Lucky Jack's as an example, buildings like that. So Westgate Commons, for instance, is one of the newest commercial centers in the village, wouldn't have those same type of issues that, say, a 120-year-old building would have.
Right.
So the boundaries, from my understanding, it's yet to be determined, but what you stated, that's roughly the boundaries. North Avenue, up through Gorski Plaza.
You have to, one of the key issues in a TIF is you have to pass the but-for test. And that's legal terms, but basically it means that development would not occur but for the creation of the TIF. And that's the language they use in the statute. So you don't necessarily want to put in an area that's already fully developed and just to grab the increment, because there's no but-for test if you're wanting to redevelop it.
So in effect, a TIF, for layman's definitions, would be as simple as saying, there's no other way to make this viable, generating money, except if we can prove that a TIF
But
would
for
be
the
good,
TIF.
but for the TIF,
That's-
would be a way to get parties interested in developing this otherwise empty piece of property.
That's, in a nutshell, that's the test, ultimately. But, and as Tony explained, the criteria, vacancies, reduced assessed value, deterioration, blighting, those are the things that go into creating that.
People cringe with that word blighting. Could you explain or define briefly blighting?
I say Lucky Jack's is blighted.
Yeah.
That's an example. Or you could have a vacant lot that's, not graded properly, or, a lot of ruts in it and weeds and debris, and that's blighted. But that's one of the reasons that the Brewster Creek TIF was created, is that it's a old quarry. So TIFs were originally formed, the TIF districts were originally formed to rehab old gravel quarries in the middle of urban areas, so that you could do that.
I left you a message the other week. As the weather is turning despite the snow, West Bartlett Road, Gifford's all beat up, but all those quarry trucks, they're turning onto West Bartlett Road. It's tearing that up something fierce. I don't know if that's going to be you or Paul, and I know that we've got boundary lines there between Elgin and Bartlett, but we're going to have a problem there. The rocks come off the trucks, it's eating up the lines, it's eating up the surface. You got some heavy-duty vehicles just pounding all.
Yeah, the road deterioration would be actually out there, it's more likely being Cook County Highway, or when it goes further west, it's Kane County Highway. So the road, and then Gifford is either Cook County Highway and then the city of Elgin. It's what taxes are paid for to fix those roads. That's what, and then if the overweight vehicles, they get a ticket, that money goes to do road repair.
I feel for all the people that they put in all the houses where the quarry was, because that's the road out. That's terrible there, and it's getting worse.
I think a lot of that traffic there is for road construction that's going on, and there's stuff going on up north on Lake, and pretty soon Route 25 and Stearns. They've been stockpiling a lot of the materials. So that's going to continue for a while, probably till 2015.
25 and Stearns.
25 and Stearns.
25 and Stearns is that mega intersection that there's
You got
nothing
about
around.
a week
It's like,
to go through that
it's
clearly.
like 20 lanes wide in all directions. You won't find more than one car at a light at any time of the day.
Next week, it'll be a big traffic jam. They're going to start a reconstruction of the railroad underpass.
Oh, my God.
And you're going to have lane closures and rerouting, so figure out a different way to go.
Who came up with that pork barrel project?
I think it's a Kane County Highway Department project.
There's nothing out there, and yet there's this big, mega wide road and mega intersection. It's like, wow.
Okay, Tony and Jim, do you have anything else on the TIF? If not,
No, we'll keep
Let's
you apprised of the
move on to
status.
Chamber of Commerce update.
Sure.
That's our buddy Mike.
At our last meeting, Commissioner Russell was bringing up, the potential of meetings between the EDC and the Village Board or the Chamber of Commerce to share ideas of upcoming projects. I'm taking this right out of the minutes here. And Jim reminded the Commission that the EDC formally has a chamber member appointed as part of the permanent fixture on the EDC. Also, as Mike can attest to, the chamber has an official village representative who attends many, if not all, of the major chamber functions. So that being said, I haven't put this on the EDC agenda before, so I'm going to turn it over to our chamber representative here. I'll do that every so often at these meetings, so Mike can give us an update of some of the things the chamber's up to.
Sure. Thanks, Tony. As you mentioned, there's the cross-pollination, so we have Paula on our board, and she attends the monthly board meetings, which will be next Wednesday, or this Wednesday. And she participates and really brings the village into our events and keeps us up to date. Paula Schumacher.
Oh, okay.
As well as I'm kind of the other part of the cross-pollination on this particular board. Those are the two official cross-pollinations. We do have close ties to Kevin Wallace. Obviously, he was the ex-president of the chamber, still keeps in touch. So there's always conversation going back and forth and ideas being shared. In terms of events, there's things like the 5-Star Expo that we do together. Tony had a display there. How was that, by the way? Was it successful?
It was pretty good, yeah, that was good this year.
Other things we do is there was a breakfast, I think, or an event with the police this past weekend. You know, we kind of help promote it. We do events in coordination with it to help bolster the attendance, et cetera. I think it probably bolstered our attendance more than it bolstered the villages, though, because the kids wanted to come see the police dogs. We do breakfast with the village every year. There are different events that happen throughout the year that involve both groups. We also work closely with the village whenever we have a large event, such as the carnival. We get the support of not just the people of the village, but the police department, the fire department, et cetera. And that cooperation kind of spills over into other parts of the year where we can help each other out, whether it's National Night Out or something like that. So there's quite a bit going on. And if you want any other information about any of that stuff that's going on, feel free to give me a call. I'll be happy to fill you in.
I think you were absent. My point in bringing it up was, I know that you and Donna are or were chamber members, and I couldn't see necessarily the cross-relational advantages with some of the other commissions, but it seemed like the chamber is probably the most visible within the town. And I was just kind of curious, how can we interact, help the chamber, or the chamber help us, so that we are working maybe more together?
Sure. Two quick ideas. The first is get people to shop local. You know, we kind of promote that, and we show that all the time, and keep reiterating it. You know, remind people to shop local. That's always a good thing to do. I know we put it out there as often as we can. The second thing, you're going to see this year the chamber is going to focus on some of the things legislative. You know, how can we help businesses in not just Bartlett, but in the state or in the country? One of the things that you'll see that was recently passed, it's now kind of old, probably 2 or 3 months ago happened, the fees to open an LLC got dropped dramatically from hundreds of dollars to like $69. And that was in part due to chamber getting on board with the legislators. So we'll be participating in things like that, and your input on those types of things would be great.
I think, as we've discussed in other meetings, that's a great opportunity for the chamber then to become more involved with some of the governmental agencies that are set up specifically to help the business communities and economic development. You know, at last month's meeting, we talked a little bit about CMAP. They were looking for input from the public at large. Tony had mentioned that you had your suggestion that CMAP was regarding taxation in Cook County.
That's a popular topic when it comes to Cook County, yeah.
But I think that, was it last spring that the DuPage County Chamber, or I'm sorry, what was the organization that held the luncheon and the meeting out at Brewster Creek? And I think you were in attendance of that, Joe.
I went to the
Choose DuPage.
Choose DuPage, thank you.
Yeah, the Choose DuPage, which I saw over at the Auto Truck Group.
But I think those are outstanding organizations for the, and again, going back to the EDC, you know, having a very strong partnership with them. Certainly the Chamber of Commerce as well, reaching out to them and partnering.
How interested is that guy from Choose DuPage, the bald-headed guy, whatever his name is?
Greg Bedloff.
Greg.
Yeah.
How interested is he in working with us and giving us ideas, or soliciting from us our ideas?
fairly interested. We'll probably do one of those events again. He's, very active throughout the entire county, and they do quite a few events on their own. There's the big retail show, for instance, is next month in Las Vegas, the ICSC convention, and they go down there. They bring materials about the county. Individual communities like Bartlett can send them promotional
Did you
materials.
say Las Vegas?
Yeah.
My ticket's in the mail?
I think we had gone to it in previous years.
Your check
but
in the mail?
No longer, right. They seem to focus more on the industrial market and the office market, and in office markets like Oak Brook, and there's a lot of big business throughout DuPage County.
Oak Brook is actually DuPage County?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Wow.
There's some big players in that group. The village or Lyle's in it, and Naperville, and a lot of the big community. Downers Grove is fairly active in it.
So we're kind of...
Open house with them.
Yeah. So you ask how interested they are? Yeah, of course.
So our little piece of Bartlett is
with
kind of like a
Choose
drop in the
DuPage.
bucket for them, then.
They have sent us some qualified prospects in the past. Yeah.
Tony regularly goes
Yeah.
to events that they host a table at and participates with them.
Yeah, they were formed.
Yeah, they do
You
that
know.
at the ICSCs and all that. So.
That guy is very dynamic. He's really passionate about his job.
Absolutely.
Back on the chamber, I think one of the things that I've enjoyed being affiliated with the chamber with most are some of the smaller workshops that meet either at the library or at the chamber office, where individual business people can come in and learn about some of the issues and how to do their business better. I think besides the bigger things you do, that's really a valuable thing I'd like to see continue.
We make a concerted effort to put together a series of those types of workshops, and so we usually take the summer off, but you'll see them start back up in September.
I know there's been a series on social media, which is a mystery to many of us about.
We've also had
how to-
representatives from SCORE come in
Yeah.
and help out, and the post office,
Yeah.
teaching about EDDM.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a wide variety, and if you guys have any suggestions for any programs, we're open to it.
Yeah. Okay. Now you're down to Discover Bartlett Facebook page.
Thank you. Just give me a minute to shuffle papers here. In these meetings with the Economic Development Commission in late 2012, we were focusing on low-cost alternatives to promote area businesses. We actually had quite a few meetings about that. We brought in, during that year, somebody to do a presentation on how to get your business on Groupon, if you recall. And we had somebody else come in and talk about the radio shopping show, and we were just looking at that point at ways to promote our local businesses throughout the entire village, while also doing it in a very cost-effective method. That being said, the EDC launched the Discover Bartlett page on Facebook as a way to highlight local businesses on social media and also build stronger connections with area residents. In the recently adopted strategic plan that the village board adopted, one of their objectives is to maintain and enhance communication, and the action step they list out for that is to promote the village's website, Twitter, and Facebook presence to residents. So that being said, this page was created now about a year and a half ago. Staff made 144 posts last year and 42 so far as of April 8th. The page recently surpassed 2,700 likes, so that's pretty good. We were here about a year ago saying we were just about to hit 500, so it's come a long way since then. I only put it on the agenda tonight to remind everybody about it and that it exists, to please notify myself of any business promotions or events that you are made aware of and can be posted on the page, and also invite your own Facebook friends to like the page. It's kind of stagnated around that high 2,700 number for a while, so it would be nice to get that up over 3,000, some point during the year. One thing I want to mention is just the more people like it, I've been, businesses and organizations are sending me information fairly frequently now. I put on something today about the Village Church of Bartlett doing an Easter egg hunt this weekend, and they sent it to me. So I didn't have to seek out that event. The library
I
sent
told them
me.
to do that.
Thank you. Well, via Cecilia. Yeah, actually, I'm glad you said that. I think at least 2 or 3 people recently have sent me information on it and wrote in the email that Cecilia had alerted them to do so. So I'm gonna thank you for that. And one more thing I was going to say tonight, but before I knew it was going to snow, was I was going to take my camera out or invite some of you to go out and take a beautiful springtime photo to replace the snow-covered gazebo with. Since it's the middle of April, I figured maybe I'll go out to the state park and take a picture of some flowers in bloom, take a picture of some kids riding bikes in a park or something.
Yeah.
But it looks like at least today wasn't a good day to do that. But
Yeah, we want to change this, yeah.
yeah, that was a nice picture I put on mid-December. So
You can always put the Tipsy Monkey back up.
yeah,
I have some really nice pictures from last spring from the Tri-Village Garden Club's plant sale right by Banbury Fair. I mean, they're beautiful shots, so feel free to put one of those up. I'll send you a bunch of
yeah.
them.
Can you send it to me
they're
as
gorgeous.
those of you who run or use Facebook? You do it as a JPEG attachment. Most people send it to me as a PDF, but you can convert a PDF into a JPEG. So if you have something, throwing it out to you guys. I'm looking for some nice springtime pictures. So hopefully, I haven't looked at the weather report, but hopefully later this week at least there will be some warmer days.
Now, I've noticed that if people send things directly to you, it gets a bigger spot than if they post it themselves, right?
Yes, I've learned that over the year of running the page. If I post it as the page administrator, it's put on as a full-size photo rather than you can see. Sam Ahuja's son, Ruben, had put a bunch of things on a few days in a row over for Sam's Grill and Pizza. And when he posts a picture, it's there kind of in a smaller format along the side.
Yeah.
Or you have to click on it.
Yeah.
So,
Kind of gets hidden.
yeah.
So I tell everybody to go through you.
Right. So, yeah, I'm always looking for content. I went to
Tony.
one of those Chamber of Commerce presentations a year ago that Michelle Sarwas did on social media, and she said for a business, the ideal amount of posts is 2 per week. It's not a personal page where, we put on everything we're doing, but something that's more of interest to people throughout the community.
Have you received any information regarding the Bartlett Women's Club fashion show coming up?
As a matter of fact, somebody sent that to me today.
Today?
So that will be most likely posted tomorrow. Yes.
I'll inform my wife.
Celia, did the Arts in Bartlett also send the couponing program?
I tried to get to that today. I meant to.
Kudos to Arts in Bartlett for that.
It's a dine around for the arts where we're going to TL's on the 28th. Anyone who brings in the coupon, and I happen to have some on me, a third of the meal will be donated to Arts in Bartlett. And that's the 28th for lunch or dinner.
I'll be sure to eat there that day
Yeah.
and post it. I've seen the paper copies of those throughout the downtown area. Businesses have been posting that in their windows. So,
Dine around for the arts.
again, it's just a reminder of everybody. I'm still working on that page, still trying to build up an audience, and still trying to keep relevant information on it. That was why the EDC originally decided to do this kind of page, so, yeah, feel free. Any other questions about the Discover Bartlett page?
Does anybody have any new business?
It's not necessarily new business, it's more reminders. Your statement of economic interest has to be in by May 1st. You got a couple more weeks.
Yeah.
If you want, I got one tonight. If you want, just drop it in the inbox and put my name or community development on it, and I'll get it if you don't
You
want
mean
to
in
come.
the fine box? out
Yeah,
there?
the utility drop box.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thought it
So
was fine.
I've told my other commissioners if they want to drop it in there,
I
that's
dropped
fine.
that one,
What's that?
but I already dropped one last week in the name of, I think, I put a name Valerie on that.
Okay, so yeah, and if you put Valerie's name, the ladies who tally them will pick them up. So you can just drop them in there, and
I've
we'll
already
get-
dropped it.
Sure,
Probably
yeah.
You may want to get it, yeah.
But they are due by May 1st, so. Otherwise, we come out to get you.
And I gave Tony and Jim some of these brochures. Saturday, I was at a event put on by the Village of Streamwood. The Community Relations Commission puts on 2 events a year, and this was one of them, Art Appreciation Around the World. We were there with the Sister City information and met a lot of great people. But when we suggested the commission to the village trustees, so far it hasn't gone much of anywhere on arts and culture, but I like the way that they have structured theirs to do things that show the diversity and the cultural growth in their village. There were artists from all over the place. I mean, I think we'd be surprised to discover how many ethnicities we have here in Bartlett. I met a woman from the Philippines, and she didn't even know there was a Philippine community in Bartlett, and there is quite a few. So these kind of bring the different ethnicities and the diversity of a village forward, and I like the way they have their structured. So if you want one of these blue brochures, they're over by Tony.
I'll pass it along to administration, too.
Yeah. Because that really is generic enough, you could do just about anything with that. You could
Right.
express it through many different forms. If there's no more business...
I wanted to thank Tony for meeting me out to look at the signs that were out there already, and I think we came up with the same idea of what would be needed out there. I think the signs are in locations that probably can be seen by the people who are parking there, but we didn't see any signs that were located right on the street for traffic for people going back and forth.
Right, yeah, you're welcome. And he's referring to the free parking at Metra signs. We, Bob and I met, I can't remember if it was last Thursday or Friday, but walked around and the entire parking areas for Metra and photographed potential locations for additional signs.
So I'm going to bring that up at staff, so tell the
Yeah.
Public Works people.
And thanks for bringing it to our attention as well.
Yeah.
Did you also, I remember from last month's meeting, that I think Donna had mentioned the convenience of having free parking actually, a sign indicating free parking posted at the pay terminals.
Right. I was going to put that in with Bob's idea, so.
Yeah. And that makes sense, right, where you make your payments.
Right.
One sign over there, that makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
My motion.
It's been moved and second that we adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.